5. Things deep thinkers never explain to others and why that makes them powerful. The smartest people in your life are lying to you every single day. Not with words, with silence.
Becomes the real.
They've made a quiet decision to never explain certain things, and once you see what those things are, you'll understand everything you've been missing about them. I've spent the last 3 years quietly watching the deep thinkers in my life. The ones with rich inner worlds. The ones with that still waters run deep quality. And I started cataloging the things they refuse to explain. There are 5 of them. Stay with me, because the 4th one will probably hit a nerve. And the fifth one I've been doing wrong for most of my adult life. I'll show you how I'm fixing it. Quick story before we start. Last year, I worked next to a guy named James. Brilliant. Quiet. People kept misreading him. They thought he was arrogant, distant, even rude. But I sat at his desk for 6 months, and I saw something most people missed. Every time someone tried to drag him into a debate, he'd nod once and say, "That's interesting." That was it. No defense. No engagement. One day, I asked him why. He smiled and said, "I learned a long time ago explaining doesn't build understanding. It just drains energy." That single sentence rewired everything I thought I knew about communication. The first thing deep thinkers never explain is why they suddenly went quiet on you. You've felt this. Mid-conversation, someone disengages. Their eyes drift. They go monosyllabic. Later, when you ask, "Are you okay?" they say, "Yeah, I'm fine." But you know something shifted. Here's what's actually happening. And there's neuroscience behind this. Researchers at the University of London found that introverted, high IQ individuals show significantly higher cortical arousal in their prefrontal cortex during conversations. Translation? Their brains are working harder than yours during the exact same exchange. So when they go silent, they're not bored. They're not angry. Their cognitive bandwidth hit capacity. They need to retreat to recharge. But they don't explain it because saying "my brain needs to process for 24 hours sounds insane out loud. Tool. If this is you, stop apologizing for needing space. Schedule it. I block 2 hours every Sunday morning. No phone. No people. I call it mental detox time. Try it for 1 week. The difference is unreal. Now, hold on, because what I'm about to say will probably contradict everything you just heard. The second thing deep thinkers never explain is what they actually think about politics, about religion, about controversial topics, sometimes about you. And here's where this gets uncomfortable. Because if you've ever been thoughtful in public, you've already paid the price for it. Think about it. Every time you tried to share a nuanced view, what happened? You got labeled, boxed, misquoted, argued with by someone who hadn't thought about the topic for 5 minutes. That's not a fair exchange. And smart people stopped making it. There's research on this from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, 2018. People with higher cognitive complexity, the ability to hold multiple, sometimes contradictory ideas at once, actually share fewer opinions in social settings. Not because they're cowards, because they realize their nuanced views get flattened into something they didn't say. So they go quiet. They observe. They reserve their real thoughts for the rare person who can hold complexity. Here's the real betrayal. The world rewards loud, simple opinions and punishes thoughtful, nuanced ones. Deep thinkers didn't stop sharing because they got weaker. They stopped because they got smarter about who deserves their depth. Okay, here's where this video takes a turn. Because the next thing I'm going to tell you is the part that hurt me most to figure out. There's a hidden cost to being a deep thinker that nobody talks about. It's not loneliness. It's not feeling misunderstood. It's something quieter, heavier. It's the exhaustion of constantly translating yourself. Imagine being bilingual but not in the language sense. Imagine your inner world runs on one operating system, and the rest of the world runs on a completely different one. Every conversation requires you to translate, to simplify, to soften, to shrink. And after years of that, most deep thinkers just stop. They don't explain anymore, because the translation cost is higher than the connection benefit. So they save their full self for the few people who don't need the translation. And to everyone else, they just say fine. But here's the good news. Once you understand the cost, you can choose where to spend it. You can stop wasting depth on people who can't receive it. And that brings us to the third thing, and it comes with a tool that genuinely changed my life. The third thing deep thinkers never explain is what they're actually working on. Their goals, their projects, the skills they're quietly building. Why? Because there's neuroscience behind this. NYU researcher Peter Gollwitzer ran studies in 2009 with a mind-bending result. People who announced their goals publicly were less likely to follow through than people who kept them private. Your brain treats the announcement itself as partial completion. You get a small dopamine hit just from telling people, and that hit reduces your motivation to actually do the work. Deep thinkers figured this out without the study. They don't post about their gym routine. They don't announce the book they're writing. They just do it. And one day, the result speaks. Tool. I call this the 6-month silent rule. Whatever big goal you're chasing, don't tell anyone for the first 6 months. Not friends. Not family. Not Instagram. I started writing a book using this rule. 8 months in, manuscript finished. Compare that to my previous attempts where I told everyone and finished nothing. Quick disclaimer. Tell your spouse. Tell your therapist. Tell a real accountability partner. But the broad announcement to acquaintances? Skip it. A few years ago, a close friend stopped texting me. Not dramatically. Just slowly. I never knew why. Until I asked someone we both knew. Her answer changed how I see relationships forever. She said, "She told me she was tired of you always making everything about your career." That hit me like a slap, because she was right. And the friend who stopped texting? She never told me. She just left. That's the fourth thing. Deep thinkers never explain why they distance themselves from certain people. They don't fight with you. They don't ghost you. They just slowly fade. And if you ask why, they'll say, "Just been busy." That's a polite cover. The truth? Deep thinkers are pattern recognizers. After enough interactions, they've quietly collected data. How you handle stress. How you talk about other people when they're not in the room. How you respond to their wins versus their losses. They form a private assessment. And if the pattern shows you're a net drain, they exit. No drama. No explanation. They don't tell you because the conversation goes nowhere good. Nobody wants to hear. "I noticed you talk badly about your friends behind their backs, so I'm done." That's a fight, not a conversation. So here's the harder question. Not who's evaluating me, but am I the kind of person worth keeping in someone's inner circle? And here's the science behind why deep thinkers don't react when they get quietly disappointed in you. Picture 2 circles. The first, smaller, red, your amygdala. Emotional alarm system. Fires in 50 milliseconds. The second, bigger, blue, your prefrontal cortex. Rational planner. Takes 500 milliseconds to engage. The gap between them is 450 milliseconds. Less than half a second. That's where every regret in your life lives. The angry text. The decision you made when sad. The thing you said in a fight. Deep thinkers train themselves to live inside that gap. To pause. To wait. Okay, I want to take a breath here, because the last one is the hardest one for me to talk about. And I'm going to be honest with you in a way that feels uncomfortable. The fifth thing deep thinkers never explain is their inner doubts. From the outside, they look like they have everything figured out. They speak with conviction. They make decisions confidently. They look grounded. But internally, most deep thinkers are constantly questioning themselves. They doubt every belief. They second-guess every choice. They live with chronic uncertainty that would crush most people. Why don't they tell you? Because vulnerability gets weaponized. Once people see you doubt yourself, they use it later in arguments. The world rewards confidence, even fake confidence, over honest uncertainty. Here's a hard truth from cognitive psychology. There's a concept called epistemic humility. The more you actually know, the more you realize how much you don't know. A 2019 Pepperdine University study with 1,200 participants found the most intellectually humble people scored highest on crystallized intelligence. Literally smarter, and they doubted themselves the most. For most of my 20s, I was a fake confident person. I performed certainty. Privately, I was anxious almost every single day. The shift happened when I started telling one trusted friend the actual truth, not the polished version. Just saying I don't know what I'm doing out loud even once a week took 80% of the weight off. Tool. Find one person, not 5. Not your whole social circle. One person you can be uncertain in front of. A therapist counts. A real friend counts. A journal you actually use counts. Put down the mask in one place. The deep thinkers who don't have a release valve, they break, eventually. I've watched it happen. Look, when you put all 5 of these together, you start to see something most people miss. Deep thinkers aren't mysterious because they're hiding something dark. They're quiet because they've learned that depth doesn't translate easily. Imagine someone who speaks a language with 200 words for shades of green. Drop them in a culture with one word green. How would they describe what they actually see? They'd give up. They'd just say green. That's what living as a deep thinker feels like. Their silence isn't arrogance. It isn't coldness. It's preservation. They're saving their depth for the few people, few moments, few conversations that can actually receive it. And the question this video leaves you with isn't, are you a deep thinker? It's harder than that. When someone in your life goes quiet, distant, or vague, can you make space for what they're not saying? Or do you punish them for not explaining? Because the world doesn't need more explanations. It needs more people who understand without needing them. If any of these 5 hit you somewhere real, don't just like and move on. In the comments, type the number 1 through 5. I read every single comment, and the one with the most engagement, I'll make a follow-up video going much deeper into it. And before you go, there's actually a 6th thing deep thinkers never explain. I left it out of this video on purpose. It's the most controversial, the most powerful. It deserves its own video. I'll cover it next week. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, protect your silence. There's wisdom in it.